Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Other's Keeper. I hope you like my little temporary placement thing. Hey, Crystal. Hi, Daniel. Nice to see you both. Glad you're here. Um, so, we are going to talk about a couple different things tonight. The original topic for tonight was going to be boundaries, which we can absolutely touch on because that goes through so much of your life, right? And but I have a friend who asked me some questions today that I think really need to be answered, and we're going to answer them in a similar context. Fernando, oh,
Comienza. Some
it's in
eating
Spanish.
something?
No, Fernando,
Somebody's
what
eating something.
was? Oh, okay.
I think.
Yapo comienza el show. I
I am
don't know.
rusty on my Spanish.
No entiendo. Yes, I know that. I know that one really well.
I
No
can say
entiendo.
I can say hola, ¿cómo está?
Hola. Okay, Spanish. Okay. Anyways, so we're going to talk in context of something that happened to me when I was working, and basically what caused me to have an eventual complete nervous breakdown. So I was dealing with a bullying situation at work, and I would go to work and I'd be perfectly happy, and then I'd just be shaking at my desk, and it was just a matter of, I'm just sitting here. I'm not doing anything. Why am I shaking? So I checked my blood sugar. I checked whether or not I had eaten anything, had I had any caffeine? What was it? Nerves didn't even occur to me that
Mm.
could have been a physical response. So, but as soon as I went into the classroom, I was fine. As soon as I was teaching, I was great. So hey, we've got a lot of people here today. We've
We
got
do.
Todd, we've got Mary, Crystal, Fernando, Daniel showed up. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming by.
Hi, friend. Hi, my
Hi.
matrix. Hi, everybody.
So that I have less trauma about that than I used to, but I still cannot drive down that street where that business is. It's a physical, visceral response. Um, and I came across that today, actually. I had an appointment downtown and I had to go not to that street, but past that street, and just going past that intersection, I'm going, it's absolutely outside of my control and I hate it. And I want to know how to get around that. What do you think?
Well, if this is the location where you experience something traumatic repeatedly over time.
Hmm.
Is that right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's part of why that happens. I think it's helpful to
Mm,
know first why it's occurring. If it's someplace that your brain has come to pair, this location, this cue, this sound, this smell, whatever, if it was there at a time you experienced something incredibly traumatic,
yep.
that's going to be kind of hardwired in for a bit. Your brain's going to associate this
That
place
was in
with that
2015.
experience.
It's been more than a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay, that's way more than a bit for sure.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
there's a couple ways that a person can handle that. I mean,
Hmm.
there's what's called exposure therapy, which is
Hmm.
exactly what it sounds like, where you expose yourself to the thing that causes the response. Now, if you have a really, really strong reaction, like if you panic, like if you're at a 10, then it doesn't make
Mm,
sense to jump right in. Like that may be too much all at once. That may flood a person.
right.
But there's
Right.
ways to do exposure therapy kind of safely and more responsibly than just throwing somebody into the lake and saying, learn how to swim. Um,
My dad did that to my mom. It didn't work
right,
well.
right. Not
Yeah.
not recommended. I have met one or two people here and there who like
Hmm.
the, jump in, all at once kind of thing. But for most people, that doesn't work out too well. And
Yeah.
that could backfire too. Like if you expose
Right.
yourself to too much too fast, then that could be so upsetting and so terrifying. It just strengthens this trauma response. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So, what a lot of, so the first thing I would consider is like, how much does it impact your daily life? Like, is this a building that you cannot avoid going by? Is there, or are
I
there
can
plenty of other
completely
routes?
now that I'm no longer working there or even in that city anymore, because I have quit work, I can avoid
Mhm.
it entirely. Um, but I mean, the guy who was bullying me at work was my boss.
Okay.
And every now and then I will go into a store completely away from the area where I worked. The last time I saw him was at a Staples. I was getting something and he was shopping for school supplies for his son, and he just called out,
Oh,
"Hey
wow.
Kim, how you doing?"
Like,
And
everything was
my
fine.
whole body just went woof. My
Oh gosh.
daughter was there with me, and so I sucked it up and did my best masking, and I just yeah,
Wow.
I did my best masking. I had a very short conversation with him. I went back to my where my daughter was in the next aisle over, and I
Mhm.
just kind of went, "Okay, now I need to breathe."
Deep breath.
And
That
she's like, "What?
sounds,
What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, that was my boss. That's the." And she's like, "I want to go punch him in the throat. He made my mom sleep
wow.
for a year." Yeah, I was in bed
Wow.
for 18 to 20 hours for almost a full year.
That's,
It
yeah,
was it
that's
it
bad.
got that bad. So,
And
yeah.
so this is the city. Like, first of all, like, I'm sorry that that was sprung on you that
Thank you.
way. Like that
Yeah,
sounds,
thank you.
terrifying. That sounds upsetting. You weren't prepared for it. It sounds like you handled it extraordinarily well. It sounds like you were able to kind of
I'm good
acknowledge how
at
upsetting it
thrusting stuff
was.
down. Yeah.
I mean,
And
sometimes
I'm
we
so
have to do
comfortable
that in the
I'm
moment
doing
just to
arts and
get by,
crafts. Yeah.
as long as we don't
Um,
stuff it down forever, right? Like,
right.
hopefully we get to a safe place time where we can express it. Like when you came to the next aisle over and you can say, okay,
Yep.
now I can breathe. Now I can express how upsetting this was for me. Because we
Right.
don't want to bottle that up forever. Like the
Right.
bottling up thing should be just to get to the next safe place so that you can express it and let it out. Um,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
if what I would say is, if a trauma response, if it's heavily impacting a person's daily life, like if it's keeping you
Mhm.
from doing the things you want to do, like say that building that feel terrible every time you drive by is next to somewhere else you really want to go, like your favorite
Mhm.
coffee shop or a bookstore or something
Mhm.
like that, then those are good reasons to want to work through that. Or if it's something that's not impacting your daily life, like say you don't even live in the same city anymore, then it might
Mhm.
be something that's not a priority for you to change that reaction. But I know some people, just as a matter of like, it's my personal goal, I want to overcome this just to see that I can. That's
Exactly what I
perfectly
was just
valid
gonna
too.
say. Yes. Yeah.
That's perfectly
Yeah.
valid. Not everybody feels the need to do that, but if you do, there's ways
Right.
to do that. If you seek out any kind of exposure therapy, like first of all, like I would recommend like seeking out like a trained therapist who knows how to do that safely, because there's ways to do it gradually. What it could kind of
Okay.
look like is, first you're going to have the chance to kind of talk through and process some of what you experienced in a safe
Mhm.
environment with someone you
Mhm.
feel comfortable with. You get the
Yeah.
opportunity to get some feedback from someone who was not involved in it, to kind of validate that, yeah, this was a terrifying experience for you.
For
This
sure.
is not this is not something wrong with you that you had this reaction to it. This is a
Mhm.
human response to something traumatic.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
once you get
that's
to a sorry, go on.
well, I was gonna say once for me, it's almost like a sense of pride. I don't want to be controlled by this. I
Yeah,
don't want to be a person who is afraid to go
sure.
shopping in that area of town, drive down that street, um, be like, I don't want to have my breath catch if we happen to be in the same store at the same time. I
Sure.
want to get rid of that. Um, so exposure therapy is a good therapy, for example. Is there anything else that you can do like in that moment?
In the exact moment. Okay. So
Mhm.
in the moment, what's happening if you're so if, like say you haven't done any work around it at all, like you
Mhm.
haven't, gone through any kind of therapy, you haven't had any chance to process it, you
Mhm.
haven't had any chance to get any distance from it. Like in the moment,
Mhm.
it's going to be a raw reaction, and your body and your brain are going to go into that fight or flight mode, right? Which we
Right.
as human beings developed to help keep us safe from things like predators and
I'm a
running. We had to
flight
be
kind of
able,
girl.
yeah, we had to be able to like run or fight. So all the blood
Mhm.
is going to rush to your extremities so you can run or hit something. Your heart rate's going to increase. These are all like adaptations that are great if you need to run away or fight something. But
Right.
like a building, you can't run away, you can't fight. Well, you can run away, but it's
Mhm.
not something realistically you need to run away. But your mind feels that way because it's associated with the terrible experience. So in that moment, what I would say is to do something that's going to be completely opposite to what your body is doing, because your body is going
Okay.
to automatically speed up. It's going to increase your heart rate. Your breath is going to get fast and shallow like that.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
the fastest, like kind of most obvious, I say most obvious, but it's not obvious in the moment. Most obvious thing
It's not
is to
obvious until you know
sl-
it, and then it's
right,
obvious.
right, is to
Yeah.
slow your breathing down. I'm a big fan of the box breathing technique just because it adds a little bit of a visual aid, like at least something
Mm.
you can
Mhm.
imagine when it comes to slowing down your breathing. Basically, the idea is you breathe in
And
deliberately
box
slowly
breathing.
to
Yeah.
the
Sorry,
count
you
of
you
4
froze there for a
seconds or
moment.
oh, sorry.
Okay.
So
No,
I
not your
like
fault.
box I like the box breathing technique of slowing down your breathing because it gives us something kind of visually to follow in our mind, like something to visualize. So you would basically
Mhm.
you breathe in slowly to a specific count. I like 4 to start, but some people have more or less lung capacity. A deep breath for me might be more or less than for you, but it should be like a good deep breath. Should be kind of like
Right. Right.
like something like that, and then hold it for 4 seconds or whatever is equal, and then
Okay.
let it out, breathe out slowly for this 4 seconds. So it's like
For
we're
about
going
the same amount of time.
internet. Oh no. Did I
There
lose
we
my
go.
internet for a
Okay.
second? Am I back?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
just
You're back.
I was just slowing down the box breathing a whole lot. So the idea is like as we breathe in, we're going up one side of the box, we hold, we're going across, we let it out, going down one side of the box, and then we hold it again. And then we repeat that. And I like when I'm practicing it with people, when I'm teaching them for the first time, I like to repeat this process like 4 times. But in the moment, if you're terrified, I would say just keep doing it until you can feel better or get away. So
Yeah.
like there's a lot of like free resources that will guide you through this, but it would look kind of like in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. And that's really redundant, but the idea is it makes everything slow down because the human body like is not going to pair slow deep breathing with fast racing heart. So
For
it's
sure.
going to kind of turn off a little bit of that fight or flight or start to slow it down anyway.
Is that
So
like the
that's one technique.
parasympathetic system or the
Yes.
parasympathetic nervous system? Yeah, I've
Yep.
heard about that. Tell me what that is and how I can, if I can control it,
How
how
you
I
can
can
hack
control it.
it. There's lots of ways to hack it. So yeah, the
Okay.
sympathetic nerve. So the sympathetic nervous system is the part of our nervous system, our electrical system that like amps everything up a little bit. That like, okay,
Mhm.
that's what I need to speed up. That's what I need to get more energy. That's what I need to run faster, heart rate increase, all that stuff go faster. The
Right.
parasympathetic nervous system is the part that allows us to relax or slow down everything. So what's happening in this fight or flight is our sympathetic nervous system is getting amped up to 10 and our parasympathetic nervous system is like going, all right, I'm going to take a break because we got to run.
Mhm.
So things that activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Like these things, they kind of seesaw with each other. Like when one is
Yeah.
like, if they're in equilibrium, like everything's cool. You don't need to run away or you don't need to sleep either. But if
Hmm.
your sympathetic nervous system speeding you up is way up to here, types of activities that are going to hack your parasympathetic nervous system and bring it back online are going to be things that slow you down and things that kind of focus you in on like safer stimuli too. So slow deep breathing is one technique. And then another set of techniques that actually has a lot of different ways to do it is called grounding techniques. So
Okay.
grounding, I mean, it kind of comes from like you hear that and you think of like I'm rooted to the ground, like I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
It has that connotation, it has that sort of imagery because what we're doing is we're purposefully bringing our attention back to like the here and now and something safe. If
Okay.
you were actually, oh, did my internet? Am I back?
Yeah.
Did my internet freeze again?
It's
Awesome.
2 seconds. Yes.
Awesome. So obviously, if in the here and now something life threatening is occurring, then maybe grounding is not the best thing to do. But if it's a building that poses no immediate threat to you, but it's upsetting because you associate it with a traumatic memory, there's
Right.
different types of grounding to draw your attention back to something safe. There's physical grounding, there's mental grounding. Physical grounding is going to be focusing on things you can perceive with your senses. So like touch,
Hmm.
sight, taste,
Hmm.
sound. So you might do a physical grounding by naming like 5 things you can see, but give it more specificity. Like, okay, if I'm in the car riding by that building, okay, what are 5 green things I can find in this car or nearby? What are 5 green things?
So
Um,
something specific, something you can really
yeah, yeah,
focus. You have to
yeah.
focus to find it.
Yeah, the categories game is a good one. What are 5 green things?
Hmm.
What are Can I find license plates with the letter D in them nearby if you're in traffic? Um,
Ah.
the the most to me the easiest to remember are name 5 things you can see, five
Hmm.
things you can something you can smell, something you
Hmm.
can touch, like what can I touch tactily in this car and what does it feel
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
and things you can hear. So like focusing on your senses, like in this moment, not on the thing that's terrifying you right now.
So it's
Um,
almost like distraction.
yes, yes, it is. You're pulling
It's a
your
lot
focus
of
away from the thing. Yeah. It's pulling your
okay.
focus purposefully away from the thing that's terrifying you into, well, where
Right.
am I actually? Because in my
Right.
mind, I'm back in this terrifying circumstance where my boss was screaming at me because that building
Yeah.
reminds me of it. And
Well,
my
he wasn't
mind
the
is,
worst part.
yeah.
It was it was the threat of being fired was held over my head for months and months
Mhm.
and months. And then there
Oh
were
gosh.
random checks that he was
Oh
going to do and
gosh.
just randomly come into my classroom and evaluate what was going on.
Oh
And it was
gosh.
only supposed to last 8 weeks. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with 8 weeks. And then it just
Yeah.
dragged for months and months and months and months. So I mean, it was it, it was psychological torture is really what it
Yeah.
was.
It sounds
So
like it.
yeah. So like
You're,
it was difficult because it's like when I heard his voice, the whole world just froze. The whole world just kind of went. So the
yeah.
grounding, maybe looking around and checking out something outside of myself versus inside of
Mhm.
myself
Right.
would have probably helped back then. Yeah.
Right. Because what's
Okay.
happening in that moment is your mind is seeing this cue that your
Mhm.
body, your whole system associates with something traumatic that felt dangerous to you.
For
So
sure.
your
Yes.
body's reacting as if you are physically back there, as if you were back in that danger. So what
Yeah.
grounding does is it helps reinforce for your mind and your body that, oh, I'm actually not physically back in that situation, because that's what happens. Like you drive by the building and you get upset, your mind is sort of time traveling your physical reaction as if you're back there. But if I
Right.
can take my attention with my mind and focus on things that are have nothing to do with that, then it's like my body realizes, oh, I'm actually not there. I'm actually safe in this car, or, you know, the aisle of staples where nobody can, this person can't
Or even
hurt
if I
me.
just have to go to the bathroom for a minute, because I don't know if he's going to come down my aisle at all, right? So just head
Sure,
someplace safe, for the lack of a
sure.
better term. I do air quotes way too much. Even annoys me. Um, but
Yeah, I love air quotes. I love good air quotes.
so
Nothing wrong
going
with air
someplace
quotes.
where I feel like I can be me and decompress,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that
If you
helps.
have, yeah, I think that's great. If, especially like in a situation like, a public place like a Staples, you run into somebody. Uh,
Grocery
there's,
store, yeah.
yeah, yeah. If there's nothing wrong with ducking down the next aisle, like if that's what you need in the moment to kind of take a second
Mhm.
to regroup, maybe do some of
Mhm.
that deep breathing and grounding exercises. Um,
Right.
you can, feel comfortable doing that. Now, some of these you can sort of do in the moment, and people aren't
Mhm.
necessarily going to notice right away. Like, like 5 blue things. Well, I can kind of think in my head, what are 5 blue things I can perceive around me without ever breaking eye contact with you?
Mhm.
But it's
Okay.
pulling my mind out of that panicky spot. Um,
Right.
another another activity that I like is called a mindfulness of touch activity. And mindfulness is, basically it's pulling your attention back to the here and now. So away from
Right.
whatever scary, terrible, traumatic event you're
Yep.
remembering or that you've been
Yep.
reminded of. Um, it's mindfulness of touch activity works better if you have like an object, whether that's like a fidget toy or like say like I have my earbud case here. If you're closing your eyes, what you would do is you would hold. Oh, I lost my internet. If you're in a
Nope.
spot where you feel
Good.
comfortable closing
Yep.
your eyes, you would hold this object and you would try to describe it to yourself in as much detail as you possibly can without like using your sight. Like this feels smooth. It has a little indentation right here where it opens. I can feel like the bumps where the brand is imprinted into it. It is kind of room temperature. It's a little bit warmer than my hands. And you go on and you keep doing that. But
Okay.
what the closing your eyes does is it forces you to focus on your sense of touch,
The
which brings you
tactile.
back to, yeah, which brings you
Yeah.
back to I'm here, I'm now, I'm not back in that place where that person hurt me.
Yeah.
Now, this
Yeah.
one,
I'm just
it might
holding
feel a
up
little
this
funny closing your eyes, but depending where you are, you can do it with
just
eyes
holding
open
up this
too.
letter opener bookmark kind of thing that I made today. And
That's beautiful. I love
isn't it
that.
fun?
Oh, oh,
And I'm just
and
it
I'm
has
wearing one
oh,
of Kim's necklaces, you guys. My
yes.
lighting is not great, but this is
That's
one of
okay.
the necklaces Kim made. So these are I like these. I like these a lot. I love it.
So yep, you can go to my what's the word I'm looking for? My Shopify store,
Yeah.
and it can be sent anywhere you want, and it's really not that
Yeah.
expensive. So yeah, I was
No, it
very
wasn't at
happy with that.
all. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It came from you in Canada to me in North Texas, and it was actually really
Yep.
fast too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It should have only taken like 4 days.
yeah, it was really
So
quick.
yeah. Well, that's
I
good.
think I think my husband brought in the mail, and we actually had it a day before I realized we had it. He puts the mail where we have differences of opinion on where the mail goes.
Ah, one of those.
I think
Yeah.
he just kind of like drops it.
Okay. But what I was going to say, what I like about this is that the number of different textures on it, because it's bumpy along here, it's bumpy along here, but it's extremely smooth here, right? And it's flat on this side. So you've got different textures and feelings, and what am I feeling right here with my thumb? What am I feeling here with my
Mhm.
index finger? So that would
Yeah,
be something else you could do, is find something with irregular patterns on it, right? And
yeah.
try something
It
like
gives you
that.
more to
Gives you a
perceive,
specific
to describe.
focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something I have a friend who's suffered with anxiety for a long time, and something I've talked to her about is the idea of finding five things around you that you're thankful for, right?
I
So
like
just to
that.
get yourself out of your head, and into, okay, this is a totally different brain space that I'm going to. And if I can walk around my kitchen and find 5 things in my kitchen that I'm thankful for, this is my blender. I'm thankful for my blender because it makes great smoothies. I'm thankful for my
That's
fridge
good.
because it works well, it's not loud, and it keeps my food fresh. Things like that. Just being
Yeah.
able to go around, and that's something that has helped me in the past for sure.
Yeah. That's what I would
Yeah.
call kind of I mean, it's refocusing and it's kind of like mental grounding too. Like it's bringing you
Hmm.
back to the here and now.
Yeah.
Not through necessarily things you perceive, but things you understand. Like you're seeing that, perceiving the objects, but you're also paying
Right.
attention to what they mean to you. And in
Yeah.
this case, that you're grateful for them. I
Yeah.
love that.
Okay.
So
Okay. Cool.
these are great, like in the moment. How do I get
Yeah.
through this terrifying next, what feels like an hour, maybe only
It's
a couple
probably only 5
minutes?
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If anybody has questions in the chat, please feel free to give them. Congratulations, Mary, on getting fully
Yeah.
monetized today. Yay! That's so
Congratulations,
exciting.
Mary.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Um,
She's worked so
so,
hard
but
for
yeah,
that.
oh, she has. So if you have any questions or any suggestions or whatever, um, put them in the chat. We'll definitely be able to highlight them, ask them, answer them, all of that other good stuff. So, how do you use these when you can't think of them in the moment? Ooh, that's a
That's
good
an
one.
awesome question.
Yeah.
So
What would you say?
what I recommend is when people find one of these that they like, that they maybe
Hmm.
try it out in a moment when they're actually not overwhelmed and they're like, I think this could work for me. What I recommend
Hmm.
is that people pick a time every day to practice it so that after a little while it becomes second nature. It becomes easy to remember. Kind of drill rehearse is what Austin
Hmm.
Inquisitor said. Kind of.
Hmm.
The idea is that
Awesome.
it
Yeah.
becomes easier to remember when you're in the moment, right? And it doesn't have to be like hours and hours every day. It can be like, okay, before I, get out of the shower, I'm going to practice my box breathing, or when I'm trying to fall asleep at night.
Yeah.
That way you can remember it more easily. I
Yeah.
also have worked with people who they have a little like index card or something, like to remind
Oh,
them of it. Um,
okay.
I have also seen like really cool like glitter stickers that remind you of the box breathing that I've seen people put like on their laptops or their notebooks and stuff like that. Um,
Okay.
so the practicing is one way. Visual reminders, I think, are a great addition too. You
Hmm.
need those.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a very visual person. Visual cues are really good for me.
Yeah.
Something else, I use my watch all the time. It's like, okay, I'm gonna set a timer for in half an hour. I set my thing for a half an hour, or I'll set a time of I don't know, 2 o'clock every afternoon. I'll
Hmm.
do this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
Um, so on Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon, every Tuesday and Thursday, I put the program up so people can say, "Yep, this is what's happening tonight on MOK. This is what's going to be going on. This is who's going to be talking."
Mhm.
Every now and then there's a, "Hey Don, how you doing?"
Hi, Dawn. Good to
Um,
see you. Hi, Brian. And anybody I missed.
yes, yes, there's a few people in here today who I'm not. Austin, good,
Austin
Austin, good,
Inquisitor.
Austin
I
Inquisitor.
think.
There we go. Yes,
Did I
that's
read
that's
that
right.
correctly? Yeah.
Yes,
Or
Inquisitor.
oh no, Autist Inquisitor. Autist Inquisitor.
Ah, okay, okay. There
I
we
love that.
go. That is cool. So anyway, um, look, synapses flying around. Um,
Yeah. Look, there they go. Just lost one.
shiny
Just
things.
lost.
Yes,
Just lost a neuron. I'll never get that one
that's
back.
right. That's right. No, but so I'll set timers for myself, and I'll say, okay, every day. Um, oh, apparently, Austin Inquisitor says, "You know who this is. Thanks for the invite, Kristen." So,
That sounds ominous, but this is a friend that I met in a Facebook group.
and what a nice voice you have. This is
Why,
starting to
thank
sound
you.
a little creepy, but nice.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah, no, no, it's not creepy. Okay, this is good. This is good. Anyway, so And that might be a good segue into boundaries.
Perfect. Perfect.
Oh boy. Yeah. So yeah, if you have any specific questions about what to do, how to get to that place where you are habitually being mindful and that kind of stuff, maybe just say once, if you have to do it this frequently, do once an hour for 2 minutes. I put up five, but for 2 minutes, or once every 2 hours for 5 minutes. And this is just what you're going to do for that period of time, so that your whole body goes into this peaceful focus
Mhm.
for a short period of time
Right.
regularly. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes. Yes, it does. Like over time, like the more, like there's kind of a muscle memory involved in being able to sort of, relax too. So the the practice does help with that.
Hmm.
Oh, we got a fun question. What do you
Yes, Indigo has a
suggest?
very good
Yeah.
question.
What do you suggest for someone to do to recenter if they are disassociating? I have trouble staying present in that case. That is a really good question. Dissociate
Hmm.
is a pretty common trauma response to it. I mean, it's, you know, basically what it sounds like. You kind of go somewhere else in your mind. You kind of, it's like, it's something that, like, if you're in a moment where something terribly upsetting or frightening or, scary is happening to you, then
Hmm.
mentally it can be, that's a survival technique. If I go somewhere else in my head, then I don't have to be
Absolutely.
as emotionally upset by this thing that's happening. But sometimes it can stick around in times when maybe it's not convenient for that to happen. Like if you're trying to
No.
drive or something like that. Um, for disassociating, if it's a time when you really want to be able to come back to the present moment, I like the physical grounding techniques. I really like the mindfulness of touch techniques because if you think about it, dissociating is really, you're really going somewhere else in your head, right? Your consciousness is
Hmm.
kind of like not here and now. So it's like we
Hmm.
need something physical to pull our attention back to. No, I'm here and now, and this is, a safe place to be, or at the very least, not as upsetting as the trauma that's being, recalled on some level. So I like
Sure.
the mindfulness of touch activity. I like if I'm driving and I have that moment, then I might like grip my steering wheel and kind of pay attention to like the texture of it. And I don't know if it's dusty, like the stitching on it, things like that. Um, I think it's
Crystal,
part of it's going to
you'll know
depend on,
Crystal from the chat here.
yeah.
She has a
Yeah, I
great
know
steering
Crystal.
wheel cover. She has made this excellent steer with different textures all the way around her
Oh,
steering wheel.
cool.
That's so cool. I love it.
I know people that they keep a specific, like they choose an object that they like, whether it's a
Hmm.
fidget toy or like a worry stone or something like that. But
Mm.
they pick an object that they like and they keep it in their pocket. And if they have a moment where they feel like, okay, the mindfulness of touch could do me some good right now, even if they're out and about in public, maybe they don't want to draw attention to themselves, they can put their hand in their pocket, feel that worry stone, focus on the texture, the temperature, the smoothness, all that stuff, and kind of come back to the present moment a little bit. And
Right.
some people just need something to fidget with too. So it kind of serves a dual
Yeah.
purpose there,
Yeah.
which I like.
Yeah. Well, Crystal also has
Dissociation
this
is,
cool
yeah.
bracelet that she
Oh,
it
yeah.
has beads, so she'll kind of count through the beads and that kind of stuff. So yeah, but dissociation is that's a whole nother issue right there, isn't it?
You could do a whole show on dissociation, actually.
Next
I've
month.
seen whole CEU presentations just on dissociation. It's really interesting because like there's different degrees of dissociating, right? Like
Hmm.
some milder degrees aren't problematic. They can even be kind of healthy. Like the mildest form of dissociating might be your mind wandering when something boring is happening, like
Yeah,
daydreaming.
I
Um,
was going to say that.
heck,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. But at the more severe end, dissociating can feel like you're trying to pay attention to what's going on, and then all of a sudden you feel like you're out of your body. It's like, but it's not in a fun way. It's because it's not on purpose. It's not something you wanted to happen. It just feels suddenly like, oh, I feel like I'm not here And it's a
Hmm.
odd disconnect. It's a uncomfortable sensation for people
For
in that
sure.
case.
Yeah. Yeah. So Crystal was saying she has a worry bracelet. That's what I was talking about. And she'll work it without even know she's doing it.
Oh
So
yeah.
something, maybe add something to that, like something to actually keep in a pocket so that it's not just something you're going to work at, but something you have to focus on. Does that
hmm
make
You have
sense?
to
Yeah.
purposefully draw your attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It has to be more than just subconscious
Right.
kind
If
of
you're
thing.
being mindful, if it's mindfulness, if it's grounding, then you're purposefully putting your attention on it. That's a little different than fidgeting. Like fidgeting tends to be like that can be helpful for a lot of things. Like you can, discharge excess energy by fidgeting, but
Hmm.
it's not going to have the same effect, like grounding effect that like mindfulness does. So that's why
Exactly.
I like it if it's something you
Yeah.
have to purposefully grab. Like I worked with somebody
Exactly.
who they had like a squishy duck and like a you could squeeze, and I started calling it the duck of mindfulness because I'm silly that way.
Oh,
Because
I like it. I like it.
that was their
Not to be
chosen
mistaken
thing
for
to
not to be
use.
mistaken for gooey duck, which is an actual clam. So yeah,
Oh,
it, it's
I don't know what that
it's a
is.
long necked clam. So like the clam body itself will be like 24 inches under the sand, and then it'll have this long neck that'll kind of snake up. And
What?
if you walk beside it, it'll send itself down, but it'll squirt up a little shot of water to get
What?
itself down. It's called
That's
gooey
so
duck.
cool.
Yeah,
That
my
is so
brother-in-law
cool.
lived right near a beach in Washington, and he's the one who showed us what that was. So it was very cool.
Oh, I'm gonna look
Yeah,
that up now. That sounds awesome. It might be one of my new favorite sea creatures.
for sure. Yes. Okay.
Although when
Enjoy your
I think
food,
of clams,
Fernando.
I associate that like fried clams, like with food. I
Mm,
associate eating them. So
hmm. Austin Inquisitor talks about hiking the same trail all the time that's so familiar. It's like driving the
yeah.
same route to and from work. So familiar, you just zone out, you think, and it's like,
hmm
okay, how did I get here? Right?
Yeah, zoning out is a form of dissociation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, I mean, and sometimes that's not even on purpose, right? You're daydreaming, but so that's a mild form. And when you have that moment where you realize, oh, I was daydreaming, that's you coming
Hmm.
out of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the tricky part is you have to be aware that you're dissociating to use these tools to come out of it. So, for most people, there's a buildup to like really intense dissociating. Like it
Hmm.
maybe really quick. So for a person like that, it could be beneficial to get really curious about and kind of keep track of how they feel when they start to dissociate, when it's still mild, when it's still at a level that they can consciously kind of pull back out of. Because once
Hmm.
you're out in, your mental stratosphere, it's hard to come out of that.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and that's what they're saying is the difference between fidgeting and autistic stimming. So, for
Yeah.
those who don't know what autistic stimming is, why don't you explain that? Because I know that there
So
is a big difference and there's a different purpose to it.
yeah. So the word STEM is short for self stimulatory behavior. And I mean, to some degree, everybody stims a little bit. Like technically, nail biting is a form of stimming, twirling your hair, like anything where you are purposefully trying to get more sensory input. With some kind of like repetitive motion, like that's a stim. And you see it more often with folks with autism because there's nervous system differences. If you have autism, your nervous system works a little differently, and you might need more or less of certain sensory stimuli to regulate your nervous system. Um,
Hmm.
which isn't unrelated to trauma, because when you have a trauma response, that's a dysregulation of your nervous system. It's shooting up into overdrive without you wanting it to.
For
A
sure.
lot of people with autism have either what's called a hypersensitive nervous system in some cases, or which you react very strongly to stimuli that other people may not. So like temperatures, sounds, lights, maybe, more bothersome to you. Or you may
Hmm.
have some things that you're hyposensitive about. You need more
Right.
sensory stimuli to like know where your body is in space. Like my
Hmm.
child, he has a lot of hyposensitive stuff.
Mm.
He needs to be constantly in motion to feel regulated. And he likes a lot of like deep pressure, like tight hugs, weighted vests, stuff like that. That stuff helps him feel comfortable and regulated and remember where his body is in space. Um, so stimming is the form of being able to regulate a person's nervous system. So it's a little
Okay.
different than fidgeting. Fidgeting is something you can kind of,
You do to expend
it's
energy.
similar. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I look, I would, in my brain, totally not medical, totally not probably even real. Um, to me, fidgeting is more getting rid of nervous energy, and
Mhm.
stimming is bringing yourself back into where you're comfortable. Does
Right,
that,
right. I think that's a good way to describe it. They
you
have
think so?
similarities. There's some overlap there. There's some overlap there for sure in stimming and fidgeting. Um, Fidgeting can look like, they can look the same a lot of the
They
time.
can. Yeah.
Um, but stimming is not necessarily, it's not necessarily associated with like nervousness. Like it,
Right.
like my child needs to be constantly in motion, no matter what, some kind of motion, whether he's nervous or not. It has nothing to do with his emotional state. Although if you try to
No.
stop him moving when he needs to, then he will have a very strong emotional state and he'll let you know.
You'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. One of my daughters, when she was little, she would just constantly spin around and spin around and spin around. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
there's my dizzy
Yeah.
blonde, you know. So,
Yeah. A
yeah.
lot of kids do those, some of those things, and you may see more or less in individuals with, differing nervous systems and
Yeah.
neurodivergence. I spun
Well,
around a lot as a child too, just for fun.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. My other daughter, ironically, is the one who has features of autism, and
mm,
that's just kind of, she's the one who needs specific sensory input, um,
yeah,
or can't handle specific sensory input, that kind of thing.
yeah,
Um, but I no, I guess she has a blanket that she just snuggles her face into. I guess that might be a stim. I don't know, but
yeah.
yeah, she just
Sometimes
goes in and
certain
gives it a good
textures,
smell. Yep, yep, that's right.
like certain textures, can be really soothing. Like from a stimming
Hmm.
perspective, like I knew somebody
Hmm.
that they had a particular like iPad case that like they would just like run their hand along the spine of the iPad case, and that was just what helped them feel
Okay,
regulated and chill.
okay,
So it can be all sorts of things. It can be fuzzy
all right.
blankets. It can be smooth textures. Most neurodivergent folks will have at least one or two textures they tell you that they love, and one or two that they tell you they hate.
Yeah,
Like I hate chalk.
yeah.
I hate the way chalk feels.
Oh, okay. Let's see. What do I have? I love soft and fluffy. Not everybody
Mm,
does.
yeah,
My younger daughter's best friend cannot handle, that Sherpa fleece that's super, super soft and fluffy? She can't
yeah.
stand it. She cannot stand it. And then what do I hate? What sort of sensory input do I hate? Oh, I hate, I don't know, people fighting. Just that
Just
stress.
hearing it. Yeah,
Yeah, hearing
yeah.
even arguing or whatever on TV. Uh, Austin Inquisitor hates wet paper. There we go.
Ooh,
And
I can kind of
Indigo's
see
comforted
why.
by,
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
yeah. Wet paper is very specific.
Like
Uh,
a sensory aversion, when you
yeah.
see it written or you think about it, you'll have like a visceral reaction to it. That's how you know it's a
Yeah.
sensory thing, you know.
And Austin Inquisitor, the bad singing thing, I down to my bones, I get that one.
Well,
Yes.
don't go watch the rest of my YouTube channel. I hit some bad notes sometimes.
Well, last night I was at a an event in the city close to me, and it was a schizophrenia
Yeah,
society event. It was a fundraiser,
yeah.
and it was called Singing with the Stars. And
Mm.
most of the acts this year, this is only the second annual, so, but most of the acts were actually really good. One
Oh, cool.
wasn't great, but at least they got
Kind of
people
off.
who could hold a tune to a
Yeah.
degree, you know.
Yeah.
And if
That's
yeah,
nice.
yeah, it was good. And then they each had a personal story of excuse me, a personal story of mental illness and how it has affected them personally.
Oh, I love
So
that.
that was really important. Again, last year they didn't have that. And this year it was really nice to see that they
Mm.
implemented that whole mental health issue, showing, look, you can have all this talent and all of this other stuff, but mental health has affected you.
Yeah.
So
It
it's the
does
same with
not
trauma.
discriminate. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Comforted by.
Gotcha
Yeah.
makes sense. It
Hey,
reminds me of one of my
hey,
coworkers,
Mr.
I think.
Mr. Brad Boy.
There we go. Hello, Mr. Bradboy. So gotcha. What's that? Gotcha makes sense. It
Oh,
reminds me
like,
of one of
oh, I
my
gotcha. Like, I get it. Yeah.
Oh, that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, yeah. There's a phrase my mom hates, and it's oh, I can't even remember what it is right now. Keep going and I'll figure it out eventually. 3 o'clock this morning,
I
I'll wake up and go,
actually,
oh, that's what it was.
I actually don't mind bad singing. I know that sounds weird. I mean, I really appreciate really good singing. Like, I love
Yeah,
that. Like, I love good
yeah,
vocalists who can like hit the crazy notes. I love that. But if someone's like really into what they're doing and like there's feeling to it and they're getting into it and they're having a fun time, I don't care if they're not hitting the notes. I don't care if they're flat. I don't care. Like, I I'm really into when they sound like they're having a good time and they're
yeah,
passionate about it. That's what I like.
yeah.
I don't care if
And
it's
if they're not
technically good.
taking themselves too seriously,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like, yeah, last night it was, they were not, there was one or two that just weren't that great, but they were having the best time.
yeah,
They were
yeah,
just having a blast, and therefore the crowd, we all had a blast. So that was really very cool. Yeah.
yeah. If you're passionate about something, people will pick up on it and they'll get into that just as much as anything else. I hate the
Okay.
phrase.
Oh, here we go. Indigo hates the phrase "I won't forget," which is what people say to me when they would purposefully do something that I didn't like or not taking my boundaries seriously.
Oh,
Yeah, that's frustrating. So let's get into boundaries here. Um,
yes.
so when we are setting boundaries, first of all, what's the purpose? What's the purpose of having boundaries?
Where did my internet go? I think you asked what's the purpose of a boundary. Is that right?
Yes.
My internet
Yep,
clicked out
it
for a
did.
minute there. So at its core, the purpose of a boundary is to keep everybody safe or keep you safe, keep you feeling safe. It's to tell me, here is where I can go, here is where I cannot go. Here is what's
Hmm.
acceptable, here is what's not acceptable, and everything in between. It kind of lets you know the rules of engagement, so to speak. Um, so healthy boundaries should be firm but flexible. So things like one of my firm boundaries is that it's not okay with me for people to like scream at me and like cuss me out. So that's a
Yeah,
boundary, right? That's not
yeah.
okay with me. If somebody begins to yell in my office, I'm going to give them a verbal warning. I'm going to say, hey, that's not okay to yell in my office. If you need to continue doing that, please step out and take a break and come back when you're
Hmm.
calm. Um, However, the flexible part being if they're talking about something really intense that has a lot of emotion for them, it's not directed at me, but they need to express this emotion in some way. That's different. That's
Exactly.
not
That's
abusive. That's
exactly
the
right.
flexible part is you
Yeah.
have context. Um, certain
Context is king.
boundaries, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Certain boundaries you have are probably going to be pretty firm, pretty much the same in any situation.
Yeah.
Like, it's never okay to haul up and punch me in the face. That's never okay. Never okay.
Well,
That
if your
means it's a
son is
play and
having
it's
it
fake
really
or something.
bad, Well, no, if your son is having like a really bad physical time and he's just lashing out,
Mhm.
it's not
That's
purposefully
different.
hitting you in the
Yeah.
face. Yeah, it's just a this has happened
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is
That's a little
different. Yeah.
different. That's a
Yeah.
little different.
Oh, okay. So we've got a
Hey,
few new
surviving
people here.
together.
We've got, yeah. Hey, Sharon. We have Amy.
Hi, Amy.
And yeah, I think those are the two newest ones. Amy, I'm glad you found us. Feel free to stay back or stay around and check out some of the other shows because
Yeah.
frankly, honestly, I hate to toot my own horn, toot, 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 but this is I love having fascinating people on my channel. I love
Kim
it. So
has
that's
some
why
great
Kristen Melinda
content.
is fantastic. And yeah, Mr. blah, 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 Brad Boy. There we go. Having
Have to have
personal
personal
space and
space.
having limits.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
And different people have different, feelings and boundaries around personal space. Like
Yep.
typically with strangers, my personal space bubble is pretty wide. Like actually, like people I don't know, I would prefer them further than arm's length, honestly. Now, I don't know. Sometimes you get in a
Is
crowded
this better
train
personal
station or
space for you?
something. Well, I know you, so
Oh,
you're not a
okay, okay,
stranger,
okay.
Kim.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm one of the stranger people you know, so it's just
Oh, okay,
the more
okay.
you know me, the
But I,
stranger
but
I
I
get.
know you. But I know you.
Okay,
You're
I'll
happy,
give you
safe,
that.
strange. um, some people will accept your boundaries just by you verbalizing them and respect them that way. Other
Yep.
people, you have to follow up by you have to enforce it by your
Hmm.
behavior or what you say you will do if they don't respect it, unfortunately. And sometimes that's
Yeah,
not fun to have to do.
yeah. And I was talking the other day about you teaching people. I was talking about in the interpersonal violence or intimate partner violence or whatever show we did on the first. You teach people how to treat you, and that's part of
Yes,
having boundaries,
absolutely.
right? So, is a
Yes.
deal breaker a boundary because it's not flexible? What do you think?
So boundaries aren't always flexible. Like a deal breaker, that is a form of a boundary. Like if you
Hmm.
say, I don't know, like I will not be in a relationship with somebody who hits me. And that's a deal breaker, that's a boundary. It's a pretty good boundary to have. It's
That's a
probably a pretty
smart one.
healthy
Yeah.
boundary to
I like
have.
that boundary.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so there's healthier boundaries and less healthy boundaries. So it's not healthy for our boundaries to be super loosey goosey and permeable because then we'll just let people walk all over us and our
Yep.
needs won't be met or considered or respected. But on the flip side, it's healthy for them to be too rigid either because then we don't get the chance to
Yeah.
connect with people. If you build this impermeable wall around yourself, then
Yep.
nobody can really know you. And it's hard to have a
Yep.
genuine
That's right.
relationship.
Yeah.
So these are all
That's
types of
exactly right.
boundaries.
I
Firm
think
but
I think
flexible
everybody
tends to
needs
be
to
the
have
healthy way to go.
some. I think everybody needs to have some absolutely fixed boundaries. That's going to be a
Yeah.
stopping point. And I think that's what
Yes.
Indigo was
Yes.
asking about. And I think we also all need to have some flexible boundaries, right?
Yes.
Like for
I
example,
would agree.
my cell phone is in the living room all night. It's not beside my bed. But if I'm awake and a friend needs me, I'm right there. You know, so I have the boundary of while I'm sleeping. Sorry, it's
The
just not
phone's
going
in
to
the other
happen.
room.
Yeah,
Yeah. But when you're awake, that is a form of a boundary.
yeah,
Have a good
yeah.
night, Autist Inquisitor. Oh, Crystal had a good
Thanks for
question.
stopping by. Come back anytime. Love to have you. And yeah, Mary's right. Her daughter's channel is Chrissy Cosplay and Chrissy Cosplay Wardrobe. There we go. And she is going to be on the 15th with Indigo, and they're going to be doing cosplay and showing how to put together outfits and things like that for their for their fantasy worlds, I guess is the better way to put it. And I
Sorry,
don't
my
know. That's
Wi-Fi
okay.
tried to find another Wi-Fi that I
Oh
don't
boy.
want it
Yep.
to.
Yep. Okay, so here's a very good question.
Mm. You
You
said you
said
teach
you teach
people.
people
Yeah, go ahead.
how to treat you, but what do you do when people treat you like crap and you haven't done anything to them?
Mm.
Very fair question.
So I think the
Yep,
phrase "you teach people how to treat you" that refers to how you show by your actions and responses what you will accept and what you will
right,
not accept.
right.
Right? Like if somebody busts into my office and starts cussing me out and I don't do anything, I just sit here and just kind of nod at them, go, okay, okay, until they get done and storm out. Well, what I've just taught them is that they can do that and I won't do anything, is that I will accept it. That's what I've taught that
Hmm.
person. Now, if you're like in a situation where there's like a power imbalance, like I'm not placing fault on anybody here. Like if it's a child and the parent, obviously you can't, like that's different. Um,
That is.
but if it's with people you're on kind of an equal footing with, that's what we
Hmm.
mean by you teach people how to treat you.
Hmm.
So the way that I might teach that person that I won't accept that is I might start with just verbally, like just firmly say, that's not okay to burst into my office. It's not okay to speak to me that way. You need to leave and go calm right down right now, or I'm going to call the authorities. Like me telling them that, that's one way of
Yeah,
me setting
yeah,
the boundary.
absolutely.
If they continue to do that, I have to then follow up with what I said I would do. And I have to then actually call the authorities if that's what I said I'm going to do. That's another
That's
way
right.
of teaching
Because
them I mean it.
empty threats mean nothing.
Yeah,
That's one of
exactly.
the biggest ways that you teach people is the empty threat. My
Yes,
girls grew up
exactly.
knowing I don't make threats, I make promises.
Yes, yes,
Simple as that. If I say it, I'm going to do it,
right. That's
especially
another
when it
way.
comes to a consequence.
Yes. If you set a consequence, like whether that's with setting your boundaries, enforcing them with kids, you
Hmm.
tell them this is going to be a consequence, you got to stick to it. Or that teaches them they can say consequences and it's not going to happen.
That's right. Yeah. And if that doesn't even
Well,
work, then what?
I would say it depends on the situation for sure. Like there are different situations where you can pull in different supports. Um, like for example, if it's an intimate relationship, if it's really bad and it's like a safety issue, a respect issue, then it might be time to leave. Then it might be, or start exploring that option. Or
Hmm.
um, if it's something you feel can be worked through, it might be time to seek out help from a third party, like a couples counselor or clergy you trust or something like that, because there's religious
Hmm.
counseling too. Um,
Hmm.
if it's a situation, like say a professional situation, then it might be time to bring in, HR or other types of professional support or a union if you're a member of a union.
Hmm.
So I would say it depends on the situation. Um, but whatever,
Yeah.
or it might, if it's a situation that it makes sense to leave, that might make sense to do too.
Right.
Coworker
And
issue. Okay.
yeah, coworker issue. I like what Mr. Bradboy says, call them out.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's smart.
so yeah, Crystal, I don't know if you've ever done this, but if you haven't, and it's been going on for a long time, and this person confronts you or does whatever it is that they're going to do, just literally stop and stand your ground and say, no, that's not
I
okay.
like that.
And then you can take off. But to
That's a
actually, because
great, yeah,
bullies are cowards at their core, really. So
usually.
yeah,
That's a great, concise, clear way to express that. Like
yeah.
what you're doing is not okay right now. You
Hmm.
can say, I mean, if you don't have to say more than that. You can say how
No.
you will follow up. You continue to XYZ, I will, whatever that is. And then if they continue,
Hmm.
do the thing. Um, if that means I'm going to leave, if that means I'm going to tell your supervisor, that means I'm going to call the police, um, any number of those things.
So, Crystal,
I
if
do
you
that.
do that, you won't get into trouble because you're not doing anything against any regulations that any workplace will ever have. For you to say stop to somebody, like just stand and say, stop it, and then
Right.
you walk away, There is no workplace in the world where you will get in trouble for that. And if you do, there are human rights organizations. There are,
Yes. Yes.
there are definitely, places that you can go. And if those human rights organizations don't work, the media works. If
Yes.
your
Yes.
workplace won't stand for you, she works for a very large retail outlet. And so if she goes to the media and says, you know what, this has been my experience, this is the lack of support I've had. Um, yeah, and she's been there and done that with the HR thing already. So,
Okay. The
yeah.
tricky thing about HR is that in a lot of cases, it does do a little bit more to, I mean, ideally it should be there for the workers, but sometimes you get in a position where it's there to protect the company a little bit more,
Mhm.
and save things from liability. So,
Mhm.
um, I mean, at a certain point, it might be time to consult with like legal advice. I mean, if it gets
Yeah.
to a point where you've used all of the, if you've used all of the avenues offered to you, like within
Mhm.
your company, your organization, if you tried to play nice and do everything the way that they've asked you to do it, then
Mhm.
at a certain point, if it's not resolved, then it might be time to bring in some kind of legal. I mean, it depends on your situation, obviously. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but um, there comes a point when you have to seek outside assistance, or
Yeah.
or if you're in a position to leave somewhere, then you might leave. Um,
Yeah.
I know if you've been with a job a long time, it's hard to do that.
Mr. Bradboy is right. Bullies are so soft. They pick on someone and whisper behind your back because they don't dare do it in front of your face because
Right.
they are cowards, really, at their core. They don't
That
want
would
to
be,
be.
yeah,
They only want to be told that they're right. They don't want to be confronted with their own actions.
sure.
So, yeah.
The psychology of bullies that could be another show too, actually.
Oh, that may be triggering for me. That one. That
Yeah,
I might
maybe
have
we
to
wait
do
on
that
that.
simply because. Well, no,
Yeah.
because
Well, maybe
it
we
has been an
research it
issue
a
for
little
me.
bit first to get some perspective around it and then do a show around it.
Deal.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So boundaries are especially important when it comes to, like, I would love to be able to swoop into my friend's situation and say, okay, I am going to fix this for you because I love you and I'm going to take care of it. And that would
Yeah.
so be beyond a boundary. It's not even funny, right? But I
Yeah.
want to do it,
I
right?
want to fix it
So
for
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can't swoop. I'm not a good swooper. So super swooper. Yeah.
No Cheryl swoops here.
Nope. No Cheryl swoops. Yes, and you do have to step out of your comfort zone. You're right, Mr. Bradboy. That is
Yeah.
something that it is not comfortable. It is, and it's scary. Like beyond not comfortable, that it's scary in so many places.
I
Yeah.
work with a lot of people who struggle with setting boundaries, not because and maintaining them, not because of the actual act of just setting them, but because of the other person's reaction and how they feel about that. Like, I work with a lot of people who, as children, were in some kind of dysfunctional environment. They learned it wasn't okay to have boundaries. And so as adults, they're very fearful of setting them.
Hmm.
They're fearful, I'm going to make the other person mad. I'm going to disappoint them. They're going to be sad. You know, at the end of the day, their reaction to you setting a boundary is their responsibility.
That's a them problem.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
Setting a boundary is to protect yourself and your sanity. It's not to trample on someone else's rights. It's to protect yourself,
No.
though.
Yeah. Boundaries are
Like
really
I'm
for self protection.
I'm not going to take my fence and move it onto my neighbor's yard, but I'm going to reserve the right to keep it in good condition between our properties. Does that make
That's right.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, having a fence that just falls whichever way is no fence, right?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
yeah, and Mr.
May as
Brad
well not
Boy,
have it.
that's right. There are times when I wish somebody would save me. Oh yeah,
Mm,
that's for sure.
I hear you. I hear you.
Hmm. Yep, that's for sure. Oh well, that doesn't sound like we resolved a whole lot, is it? So,
Well, if it's
trauma
a
response.
so
Let's recap. For
okay.
trauma response, box breathing. So breathe in, focus on the breathing, hold, breathe
Mhm.
out, focus, hold,
Yeah.
breathe in, focus, hold, breathe out, focus, hold.
Yes.
Um, and do it like you're breathing through a straw.
Slow and deliberate.
Yeah, the
And the box part
isn't quite
means
good.
it's equal amounts. Like if you choose 4 seconds, 4 seconds in, hold 4, out 4, so that you can
Hmm.
control the pace of it.
Hmm. Okay. The what can I touch around me? What's physically so Crystal, you might have to get something that's not just your bracelet to carry with you. You know, I can if you don't have something in your house, I'm sure I can give you something to play with, like, I don't know, this will cut a kiwi if you're here. There we go. This will cut a kiwi if you want. It's a letter opener,
Oh, cool.
bookmark, whatever. So that kind of thing. I do not recommend stabbing your coworker. That would be
No,
bad.
that's the boundary equivalent of moving your fence all the way into their yard.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
also can get you into legal trouble.
Yeah, yeah, your boundary getting you into legal trouble, never a good idea. Never, nope,
Right.
nope.
Right.
Oh, okay. So Mr. Bradboy was on vacation, and then when he came back, his hours were all messed up.
Yeah.
Told his TL, I don't know what that is, to fix my hours.
Team lead, maybe.
Team lead, there we go, to fix their hours. And yeah, he's not allowed to get that close to her. Um,
Okay.
in the disciplinary action that has been taken, he is not supposed to be getting anywhere close to her, and
Okay.
he
So
does
that is a
anyways.
boundary. So that
Oh
is a
yeah, no, no,
boundary
no,
that
but he
has been
does, and he
set
gets away
by.
with it. That's the problem.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So
he has learned that
what
he
does the
was.
disciplinary action say will happen if he breaks that rule? Does it prescribe like these are the consequences if you break it?
I have no idea.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
There needs to be a consequence. Like
Yep.
if a person if you're dealing with a person who doesn't accept a boundary
Mhm.
simply verbally, like stated out loud or on paper, then you have to
Mhm.
have a consequence in place to set it for them. Like I've got to have an actual wall that you're going to bounce up against and it's going to hurt. If you're not going to just accept, oh, there's a wall there, I won't try to get through that.
Mhm.
If you're
I
not
just
just
had
going
a
to
thought,
accept that.
Crystal.
Yeah.
I just had a thought. Instead of walking away and texting your manager, take your phone out and take a photograph of this coworker who will be right beside what he's not supposed to be anywhere near, and send
I
that
like
to your
that.
manager.
I like that. It's multiple there.
Yeah. And then the timestamp on the
Or
photograph will always have the right information.
or Lady Gaga once had this really weird outfit that had like these rotating orbs, like discs around her. You could wear one of those.
Probably not going to be work friendly. Yeah, no,
Maybe
she
not.
has to get a
Not
little
dress
closer
code.
to the, yeah, not quite dress code friendly. Um, yeah, so
So this sounds like a situation where we have to get creative. If someone
yeah,
else is not going
that's why
to
I'm
place a
suggesting the
consequence,
photograph thing,
yeah, yeah. If
and that
somebody else,
way
if
you can prove, yeah, you can prove I am in this aisle, they are in this aisle, he is not supposed to be in this aisle at all. There's no reason for
yeah,
him to be over here. And maybe once he sees you do that a couple times, he'll start actually obeying the order that's been put in place.
You could also
right?
like hit record, and that way you can begin speaking, and you can be seen to be saying something like, please leave my personal space. I am recording you to show that you are refusing to leave my personal space. Please leave my
Hmm.
personal space. You know, I
Yeah.
I like the recording because then it's clear you've asked him to leave and he's not.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm
It's
sorry,
his
Crystal.
voice just scares her.
I'm so
Just
sorry, Crystal.
hearing it from a distance sends her, and that's one of the reasons we're talking about the trauma response, is it
Okay.
sends into this traumatic, mind numbing response. And
Okay.
yeah, so it's specifically a I could yeah, it's a very specific issue there.
Are you not allowed to have your phone with you, like in your
She
pocket, I
is.
guess?
She
Okay.
is, because she has special accommodations for that.
Okay. Like mine has and different phones are different, but like mine has a quick launch thing. Like
Mm,
like my phone is totally turned off, right? Like, well, it's not turned off, but like it's on sleep mode. But if I like
mhm.
double tap the side button, it immediately pops open to like recording mode. Um, that's a quick launch feature. And this is an old phone too. This is like a, what is this? This is
Is
a
it
Samsung
iPhone,
Galaxy
Samsung?
S9. This is a Samsung.
Okay.
It's old. It's an S9 Plus. So probably if you've got anywhere around
Mine's
there or
an
slightly newer phone, you probably got a
S22
quick
plus.
launch.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might play
Yeah,
with the settings
and,
on your phone a little bit and see if you have a quick launch
my quick
option.
launch is my quick launch is, um, photograph. So, yeah, there
Yeah.
we are.
Ha-
So, yeah, Crystal, you can try that. Check out, like, just a quick double tap of your power button on your phone, and, so, yeah, yours is always in your pocket, but it doesn't take much to reach into your pocket, grab it, double click, and, like, that
Ooh, an
takes, like, maybe
S23.
3 seconds. Yeah.
They're at the 23s. Man, my phone's old.
It's every year they get a new one. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours would have been 2009, maybe?
If none
Sound
of
about
this
right?
works, you could start to get really creative and use
Yeah.
like conditioning techniques and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We, we might have to get really creative.
Oh, that does work. Okay, great, Crystal.
Okay,
That's
great.
wonderful. So,
Great.
yeah, that all you have to do then is double click, and there you go. He won't have time to get yeah, she gets a new phone every 2 years. Yeah, he won't have time to run away.
Yeah.
Like, you'll have it
You could
done
have
before
a
he even
yeah,
knows what's going on.
you could have a pre-planned verbal response, like
Mhm.
something that's easy to remember. So it's rote, so you can
Yeah.
override that freeze feeling, something like please leave my personal space. Like
That's a lot to
please leave me
remember.
alone.
Please leave or just
Or
stop. I like just saying
please leave,
stop. Yeah.
stop. Um,
It's there's
something
no
simple.
negotiating that.
Yeah, that's right. Because there might be yeah, you're right. There might be a confusion about, well, what is your personal space? Um,
Exactly. Yeah. If your personal space is this far and my personal
right.
space is this far, whose
Right.
personal
And others
space do
just
we need to
other people feel comfortable like right here in your face too. Um,
Yeah.
although that's a good point too. Like people have different concepts of what personal space
Yeah.
is comfortable for them. And some of that's cultural too. Like there are cultures where people are just more comfortable being physically closer to each other. So sometimes you do have to verbalize that. You do have to tell people. You do have to say it can be a little uncomfortable, but you do have to say stuff like, "Can you back up a little bit, please?" Like,
Mhm.
and most reasonable people will say, "Oh, sorry," and they'll back up. And then if
Yeah.
they don't, that's a different situation.
That's right. That's exactly right. Dee Dee Razzle Dazzle. Hi, nice to see ya.
Hi, Dee Dee.
Oh,
Good
how
to see
is
you, Dee Dee Razzle Dazzle.
stimming different than OC? Not swimming.
I thought she meant swimming.
Yeah, no, stimming. There we go. How's that different from being OCD repetitive? That's a very good question.
Yeah. So assuming you mean stimming. So
Yeah.
OCD,
She,
it's the main difference is going to be the function they serve and a person's internal experience when they're performing the action. So stimming, the purpose of stimming is going to be to regulate your nervous system. And it's something that you can get to a point where it's almost unconscious, right? Like you might not even be aware you're doing it totally, but you know that it's soothing to you. So OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, what that involves is like you have intrusive thoughts that you can't seem to control or get out of your mind. They cause anxiety, and you feel like if I do this action, that will relieve the anxiety and relieve that thought. So there's a very specific psychological purpose to the OCD repetitive movement. Like, for example, if my obsessive thought is someone's going to break into my house, and the way that I quell that anxiety is to go turn and lock and relock my door 4 times. That's a repetitive movement, but it's for the specific purpose of quelling that anxiety I have associated with the obsessive thought. So it's a little bit, there's more steps psychologically is the main difference, I would say.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
I know that was kind of long-winded.
Okay, in my brain, I'm gonna simmer it down to what my brain can do, because again, not all of the whole medical function stuff.
The jargon.
Basically, stimming, like we said earlier, stimming is causing your nervous system to recenter,
Right.
whereas OCD is keeping something bad from happening.
Right. In your mind,
Does that sound
you
about
feel like
right?
you're keeping something bad from happening. Yep.
Okay.
Whether
So that would
that's
be
logical or not.
very basic, at the lowest
Yes.
levels.
I
That
think
would be
that's
the
a
basic
great
difference.
way to describe it, actually.
Okay. Thanks. All right. So, I think we're going to be done for tonight. Kristen, you're going to be back
Yes.
on
I'm so happy.
November 14th.
I would love to be back.
Awesome. So we're
Or
going to
front,
have you.
Just kidding.
Well, yeah, I actually prefer your front because talking
thank
to you
you.
like this is nice.
That's awkward.
But
Yeah,
it is.
that's a little
Yeah,
awkward.
more people tend to prefer the non-cousin it look.
And I don't usually like do the back of my hair for live streams because you usually can't see it. So let's just keep.
That's right. So yeah, we'll talk about what we're gonna do next month. Because if anybody has ideas, you can either get in touch with me on my Facebook page, My Other's Keeper, or you could email me at myotherskeeperis@outlook.com, or as it blah, blah, blah. My Other's Keeper is at gmail.com. I have another one that is at outlook.com, not My Other's Keeper though. So yeah, you could either email me, you can find me on Facebook, you could even simply comment to this on YouTube. That would work.
Some of my favorite topics include like the psychology of beliefs thing that kind of goes in line with this. Some of my favorite topics include like narcissism, psychopathy, stuff like that.
Yeah. Those are fun. Those are really, yes.
But I don't like to niche down, so I'll talk about almost anything, like topic wise, like psychology.
That's right. I love talking about psychopathy and what do they call those? Abnormal psychology. Is that right?
Yeah.
Abnormal psych or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Oliver Sacks stuff, the man who mistook his wife for a hat, things like that.
Okay. Oh, Loving Failure.
I've
Her church is going through
read part
boundaries
of that book.
in Marriage by Cloud and Townsend. I have not heard of that. Interesting. Yeah. I'll have to look into that. Okay.
Yeah, boundaries around a relationship, that's a whole different thing. That's a cool topic too.
Absolutely. Absolutely is. Okay. So have a great evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to the new people I have not met before tonight. I really appreciate that you stopped by. I love it.
Loving
If you
failures here
didn't,
too.
yeah, if you didn't have a chance to see the entirety of tonight, watch it on replay. Like, subscribe, and just leave a comment to say, hey, you're here, whatever. I'd love to
Yeah.
see you. And I am also, like Mary on Blessed to Crochet, I am looking towards monetization. I'm not in a rush, but I mean, hey, it would not be a bad thing.
It would be
So
cool.
I'm working towards 500. So if you want to help me get to 500 subscribers, that would be awesome. So
I think
love
we can
psych
get
stuff. I
there.
know, right? Oh, good. Thank you, Loving Failure. I'm glad you subbed. If you
Yay.
have a channel, I will find you and I will
Loving
follow you.
Failure does have a channel.
Do they? Oh, cool.
Yeah,
And is it under the name Loving Failure?
I believe so. They
Okay,
can
I
correct
will
me if
look.
I'm wrong.
I will look. Awesome. Okay. I will see you all on Tuesday when we are talking to Christina and we are talking to Indigo about their cosplay and just some
Cool.
ideas of some fun, easy ways to do something funky for Halloween or
Ooh,
just if you want to dress up and be fun.
that
So,
sounds
yeah,
fun. Perfect timing.
doesn't it? Yes, exactly. I'm so excited. I will talk to y'all later. Have a
Thanks for
good
having.
evening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.